All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, here we are at the
best podcast ever.
The best podcast ever.
The best podcast
Where
ever.
should the emphasis be on that, do you think?
I think we should go with the Ohio State and do a the.
Interesting.
Not the, it's the.
Jeff,
What happened to the one that was last week? I mean, see that's where the confusion comes in, because last week was the best.
That's why I
podcast
think
ever,
we should
so.
just go with the.
this sounds like a metaphysical question. Like last week the best?
I think
of
I
the
said
best
the best podcast ever, and then you came in with the best podcast. So I think we just.
I think this is the home of the best podcast show ever.
Interesting.
So maybe that's
Oh.
the home of.
I'm going to be nonconformist. I'm going to say the emphasis should be on ever.
Ever.
The best podcast ever.
That pushes you to be better every single time.
Doesn't it?
And improve every single time, which is the essence of what you're after anyway.
I think you're right, Jeff.
So there you go.
Okay. All right. The best podcast ever.
Or we could just go and alternate and emphasize different words in every episode and see
what clicks?
Yeah, see what happens. It doesn't matter.
Well, I'm super excited to share with everybody.
Why are you super excited,
If we
Molly?
had the drum roll, Nellie, this is where you would put it in. Nellie's our behind the scenes girl.
Yes.
Oh, I
So
saw
drum
Nellie
roll
on the
now.
way in.
Drum roll, Nellie. Because we had our last taping of the Punk and Roll documentary,
Ooh.
and it's done and going into editing, and that makes me super excited.
Congratulations.
Jeff was actually, our guest here was actually one of our last.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I'm super excited. Just giving a follow-up
Yeah.
on my documentary to the folks.
Have you already thought about who you're going to thank when you get the Oscar for Best Documentary?
Is it an Oscar? Yeah.
For sure.
I'm sure I have my list somewhere.
All right.
I'll work on that.
Yeah.
After I get the Tony for the Peter Pan, as we talked about last episode.
Yeah.
Envelope, please.
You just make sure you keep talking until the music comes in and they wave you off.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Get the hook. Well, the Gertzberg Law Firm is the official
Law firm.
of the documentary.
That's
The
right.
Punk and Roll documentary. So
Yeah. So don't mess with any documentarians.
that release that you
Yeah.
signed was
Yeah.
prepared by.
Glad I'm protected.
Yeah.
Molly, who are we talking to? Who's our guest today?
Everybody knows him. Everybody knows him. Lowe's Greenhouse or Houses, which is something I'm going to talk about.
Maybe
this.
today it's the Lowe's Greenhouse.
Yes. Jeff Griff is in the house today.
Jeff Griff with
Whoop, whoop.
2 F's.
Yes.
Not to be
2
confused
F's
with...
in both.
Four F's.
4 F's.
Or,
Anyway.
right. Right. Yes.
Jeff Griff, I'll tell you, we are going to dive into some great stuff. So Jeff is...
Do you want some wine, Molly?
No, I'm good with my coffee,
All
thank you. Did you make sure that everyone heard that as you were pouring it?
No,
For our
but that is
notes.
another sound effect we're supposed to be working
Yes,
on, right?
yes. So Jeff not only owns Lowe's Greenhouse or Houses, which I'm going to ask him in a minute, he's also on the board of the chamber, and he's also our human resource person at the chamber, and he's also vice president-elect of the chamber.
Meaning you're going to be the next vice president?
Right
of the
here,
Okay.
sitting right here.
Yeah,
about
it's
that?
automatically making me seem much more important than I really am. So thank you for that.
That is not what makes Jeff important. In my amazing definition, it's all that he does and gives, which we will find out throughout this
Yeah.
podcast.
I would like to hear about Lowe's Greenhouse for a second.
Well, can we first ask Jeff, is it Lowe's Greenhouse? Is it Lowe's Greenhouses?
You know what? You can call it whatever you want, but there is an S in there somewhere, so it is
Okay.
Lowe's Greenhouses. But
Okay.
we don't.
Well,
worry
we
about
need
that.
to say
Those
greenhouses, because
Yes.
there are a few other Lowe's around that we want to make sure
Right.
the greenhouse.
And it would be pretty lame if there was just like one lonely greenhouse out there. So
That is true.
greenhouses is really where it's at.
Have you ever gotten a cease and desist letter from Lowe's hardware stores?
You know, I don't think I'm a blip on their radar. So
Okay.
so no.
Not yet.
And maybe we ought to talk because I was first. So
Okay.
who should cease and who should desist
Oh,
and who
watch out,
has the
Lowe's.
deeper
and
pockets?
Lowe's
come on.
Electrics.
We got audio visual.
Yeah,
over
but we
here.
like them.
Oh, we
Yeah,
love
and
them.
those
We love them.
there's definitely no likelihood of confusion with Lowe's audio and visual, who, by the way, has supplied all of the televisions to the Gertzberg Law Firm and my living room.
Mine as well.
I cannot say enough about them. Too.
They do good work over there. But there is potentially a likelihood of confusion with Lowe's hardware stores.
It happens often, yes.
I think we're going to talk
Oh,
later
man.
on that.
I know just the lawyer to send them a cease and desist letter, Jeff, if you need one.
Appreciate that.
I love it. So owned for how many years?
Owned personally by me?
Mm-hmm. Well, the family.
Well, my grandfather and my great uncle bought the business in 1953. At that point in time, Route 306 was a dirt road, and so it was a very different time. So my grandparents owned the business for approximately 20 years, and my parents owned the business for approximately 20 years, and I'm in my 22nd year. So there you go.
22nd year owning it,
Mm-hmm.
or
owning.
How old were you when you started working there?
13.
Okay.
13, and there's
so that was like 12 years ago.
Yeah, that was just a blink of an eye ago.
Right.
But there certainly is a story with that. It was, and it's my anniversary of working at Lowe's Greenhouse, so it's timely. It was my Christmas vacation. I was in the 8th grade, and on the last day of school, we were sitting at the dinner table, as families did at that point in time, and my dad, in a moment, he said, tomorrow is the day you're going to start working at the greenhouse. So when you get up, get yourself up to work, and we expect you to see you there. And if you don't show up, well, then there's no need for you to show up to dinner tomorrow.
Wow.
So it was just like that.
Wow.
And, my dad is a much different man today than he was at that point in time. He was much more serious at that point in time.
Yeah.
But being that 13-year-old kid, I had to test that. I had to test that. So I went over to my buddy's house and shot pool and played games all day long. And I showed up to the dinner table the next night and sat down, and food was served, and my dad looked over at me and said, "What are you doing here?"
Oh.
So the rest is history. So.
Wow.
So.
Wow, that's...
It sounds to me like you were a rebel in your teenage years.
You know what, and that's what that story would lead you to. But actually, that is what I needed. That is what the Jeff Griff at that point in time needed. He needed a kick in the head, and so I got a few of those along the way.
Well, there's a line here in your bio, the troubled teenage years, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Would that be your story for that, or?
Oh, no, well, no,
I
not
want to hear the
necessarily.
ugly. Can we start with the ugly first and then work our way backwards?
Okay.
What is the ugliest thing that you can remember doing in your teenage years that you can publicly share over the airwaves?
Boy, that would be a hard one, and it's the publicly share part that makes it difficult. Let's put it this way: I made my parents' life unreasonably difficult through no fault of theirs. Teenage years for me were not easy. I did not find a place, as I think many kids have a hard time finding their place. And in the search for that place, I was in a lot of the wrong places. So,
Molly, can you remember what was the ugliest episode of your teenage years that you can share publicly?
Most traumatic is when I chased my sister. I think my sister and I are very different people. She's the neat freak. I'm the out of control, unorganized freak. And we would have masking tape along. We had the same room, and we would have a masking tape. My sister, of course, put it there between the lines of the room. So I would have to ask permission to go to the closet because that was in her side. And I remember I went to the closet, took a sweater or something. She found out. We chased each other around. She fell and then cracked her head on the corner of a chair and was gushing and had to, my mom wasn't home. We had to run down the street to the lady who was a nurse.
Did she bleed on her own side, or did she bleed on your side?
We were in the dining room at that time, but there was still a scar that gets brought up.
Interesting.
Brought
There
up
you go.
there, yeah. What about you?
When I was 15, I owned a BB gun, and I walked up and down my street shooting signs. and like stop signs, right? And somebody called the police on me, assuming rightly that I was carrying a real firearm, and I was arrested and brought to jail in Lyndhurst jail, and my dad had to come and pick me up. And wouldn't you know it, he wouldn't pick me up. He thought
He was too busy hanging with Jeff's dad.
that's right.
Let him out to dry.
Yeah, yeah. So I got to hang out with the Lyndhurst's finest for an evening. Yeah.
15?
Yeah, and then my geography teacher, without knowing that happened, probably one of my first mentors, said to me one day, he said, Gertzberg, I see one of two things for you. It's either law school or jail. And it turned out he was right on both counts.
Can we get him to be a podcast yet?
We don't want him here. He knows way too much.
Exactly, why?
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so more about Lowe's.
Can I just wait? Can we get back to the family ownership, because that is striking to me, right? So it has stayed in your family since the 50s?
Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
And was it demanded of you? You have other siblings, yes?
Yes, I do, and they were. My one sister was involved in the business at the point in time when I took over. But that process began when I was 28 years old, and really it was brought about by one of the most probably remarkable and certainly one of the biggest things that made a turn in my life was the divorce of my parents. So I had.
How old were you?
Well, I was 28 when I started taking over the business. So
How old were you when they were divorced?
25.
Okay.
So
Keep going.
so they were the ones that ran the business, and when they were splitting apart, that kind of course, you've got this foundation that's cracked, so everything above it is just kind of faulty, and so there was this decisions that needed to be made in a very adverse set of circumstances. So what is the saying? Is it everything that doesn't kill you makes you stronger? So there was a lot of things learned from that process.
And were they still working in the business while they were getting divorced?
They were still working in the business.
Okay.
And then my mom left the business.
Okay.
At the end of that process.
Yeah, because I would think that'd be difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, running a business with the person you're getting divorced from, I would imagine, would be difficult.
Well, and of course, running the business up until the time that decision was made was no piece of cake either.
Sure.
Right.
And of course, that was just my reality.
Yeah.
And that wasn't, this is difficult, or this is a hardship, or I'm having to deal with this. That was just my reality. So.
And what role did you have at that time? When did so answer that question, then tell the kids listening at home when you came to take over the business.
So my role up until that time, which was also a difficult part of a transition process, was working towards taking ownership and taking leadership and of the day-to-day operations. And of course, that's that's that thing with a generational business. Does the older generation want to give up their control? The younger generation knows best. They know everything, and they know the way they want to take it to in the future. So there was that battle that was happening between my parents and I. There was so yes, it was.
And do you still have that battle because Dad lives there?
Oh no! I wore him. I wore them down.
Wait, Dad lives in the greenhouse?
He lives at the greenhouse.
In one of the greenhouses.
Get out of here.
Above the greenhouse. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So yeah,
I worry about him every time I pass there. I'm like, how much longer does he have there, or is there an elevator?
Well, he's just got a knee replacement,
I
so
know,
he's bionic. He's gonna be up and down that.
Because it's upstairs. I mean,
I think it would be cooler if he lived in the greenhouse, right? He had his own little cubby, right? He just and it would be cool if he got more cantankerous and ornery as time went on. Just started yelling at customers.
Part of that is very, very true, but
he's awesome.
He's a
I have a
fixture,
selfie
for sure.
with him.
That's Crazy.
I know.
You got a selfie
I
with
know.
someone?
Well, it was crazy for him because I had never met him. He was dropping off flowers at the Documentary Film Festival, and I happened to be there getting them. And I said, "Oh my gosh, are you Jeff's dad?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh my gosh, I got a selfie with you."
That may be the only selfie that he's ever been in.
I think so. I
know,
love selfie virgins.
I'm gonna. I predict.
You know who else was a selfie virgin? The new chief of Bainbridge, Chief Mary Lou, Chief Luann, the new fire chief of Bainbridge, Chief Metz.
Did you
And-
selfie
Oh,
deflower him?
it was like I had met her, and the whole time I wasn't paying attention to whatever was going on. It was one of the first responders events at the high school, and I just kept saying, "Oh, I just gotta take a selfie with her. I gotta." And she said, "Oh my gosh, this is the first time I've ever had a selfie," which just
You
then.
don't hear that very often.
Oh no,
No.
just raised my level.
I think that several years from now, they're going to identify selfie addiction as a real disease, and they're going to do studies on
Let me be
Molly.
the first one to diagnose
12-step
myself.
plan.
For
We
sure.
can
I
get
have
you on
it.
there.
Yeah.
I have it.
Wait, so 60 years in the family, 70 years. 60 is, my math is terrible. 70 years in the family?
It's
53.
67.
67.
53.
Are you guys going to have a huge 70-year celebration?
We celebrate our 90th year as a business
Ooh.
this year, which to
Okay.
me is
That's
is,
huge.
is significant because even though the first generation, Carlton Lowe, who founded the business, even though he wasn't a part of our family, still I carry that history with us. We're just so proud of not only my family but the history of the business altogether.
Yeah.
So we celebrate that as a whole.
Lowe's celebrates everything. There is always a party every weekend at Lowe's, whether it's a farmer's market, if it's some Disney character coming, or some character coming. I don't know if we could say Disney.
Yeah, well, probably not. The Disney police will come and get you.
yes. Yeah, they're
Actually, they'll come
around.
get me. You'll take a picture of me being carried
They're
away.
in the walls right now, actually.
I mean, there's just always something. It's not, you just don't go there to get a plant.
Yeah.
There's the
You're allowed. You're
You
really
are,
allowed.
oh yeah,
You're allowed.
oh
You're
for
allowed.
sure. But in the process of buying your plants, there's the whole new gift shop that just opened last year. That's insane and crazy. I mean, every little tchotchke or clothing or jewelry that you possibly could imagine is
And
there.
thank you for your obsession. Those things, all those things you are obsessed over, that
Yes.
map, they're all gone, of course.
Yeah, are
They're-
they?
oh, they're all
that
gone.
makes me, great. We're
They
going to have to tell the
evaporated.
viewers. It is things I'm obsessed with while shopping in the Schrin Valley, like the page, and every day there's a
Yeah.
different gift I'm obsessed with.
I was going to write in the comments to that Facebook post that I think the thing you're most obsessed with is being obsessed with stuff.
I do
You
have
love
an
being obsessed with
I
things.
do have an obsessive personality. I do. Oh, that makes me so
Yeah.
happy.
See, there you
That
go.
makes me
You
happy.
make things disappear.
That
You're a
makes me
magician.
happy. Yes, so always something going on.
Yeah.
Always great things going on.
So, Jeff Griff, 67 years.
Oh my goodness, you're obsessed with that.
I am. Well, because here's why. I'll tell you why. Okay. I've had my law firm for 4 years, right? And there are days when it has seemed like 40, right? There are. I was just telling somebody today that, and we're hiring. So, if you're a really good lawyer, send your resume to ag@gertzberglaw.com. But you've got to be really good. But I was interviewing someone today over lunch, and I want the next hire to have at least like 10 years experience, right? And we were talking about why that would be, and I said to him, because I'm not that smart, and I've been practicing law for 16 years. I've been running a business, this particular business, for 4 of those years, right? And me being the senior most guy is a bad idea, right? Because there is so much to know about running a business. Now, granted, all of our clients are businesses, right? Or business owners, and we tend to get involved when things go wrong, right? They call us to get them out of. So over 16 years of practice, I have accumulated that kind of knowledge. But I look to folks like you, Jeff, who have a lifetime of running, of knowledge and experience of running a business, and I have just a billion questions of, about that. One of which is, if you had to pick like the top 2 or 3 things that you've learned in your decades of business ownership, right? And you're on your sick bed tomorrow, not your deathbed, your sick bed, right? You're moving into your dad's cubbyhole in the greenhouse, and
with my 2 bionic knees too.
right,
Hopefully.
right. And do you have kids moving into?
No, I
the
have kids
operation?
moving on to bigger and better things.
Okay.
So.
Let's pretend they were taking over.
Oh, we'll pretend.
For purposes of this question, right? So, like, what are like the top 2 or 3 or 17 things, right, that you would pass on from your 67 years of being involved in the?
Well, it's. I mean, there's such a long list. But I would have to say the first thing is to surround yourself with people that have a good attitude. Surround yourself with if there's, you can't let somebody bring you down, and I've had that. I've had that for a long time with folks that are just negative, and you don't want to do that.
Right.
You surround yourself with people that are positive and people that expect to get better. You definitely always want to have folks that are open and look forward to and grasp the concept of getting better.
Yeah.
But I think, again, going back to people, is that, I don't, thing is with my industry and my business is that we can't afford expensive people. We really can't. We don't have a lot of margin in our product. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of things that get in the way and we just can't afford to pay people a lot of money. So we have to create an environment where people enjoy their workplace. So,
How do you do that?
oh,
One way you do that is by not letting in negative people.
you have to have people that are positive. You have to encourage people, be an encouraging person, lead the way, and just identify. It's a part of identifying and not letting people through the door, not letting people into your family there that are, the egg sucking dogs.
Do you personally interview everyone that works there?
I do not personally interview everyone.
How many people work there?
Because we're a seasonal business, that changes with the time of the year.
Right.
We have approximately 25 to 28 people full-time year-round, and we will expand to approximately 55 our peak season.
Okay.
I mean, say the numbers you need to for the government in case they're listening.
Oh, I know
What are
that they're
those
always
numbers?
listening. They're always listening.
And in the same thing, Richard Branson's quote that I have all over is train people well enough so they can leave, treat them well enough so that they don't.
Right.
Or they don't want to, I believe this is, which is kind of exactly.
Yeah, and I'm always trying to train myself out of a job. That's kind of my mindset. Is I always want to train myself out of a job. I always want to bring somebody along, because that's me. I get bored very quickly. So if I'm not doing something different, I'm not learning something different, then I get bored, and I kind of make that assumption of other people as well, whether it's true or not. So that's what I'm always trying to do.
But you have a passion for this business, right?
Yeah, and that varies from day to day, because there are days that I get brought down just like anybody else. But I've thought about that. Is that, do I have a passion for Lowe's Greenhouse, or do I have a passion for just aspiring to do well?
I think it's both, and here's why. You told me that you have a greenhouse at your house. You own a greenhouse, and you have a greenhouse in your home. You have a giant greenhouse, a commercial one that you can use whenever you want. So that's why I think that you have a passion for the business.
I have a passion for plants and gardening and being outside.
Right.
But I think greater is my passion and I think that passion to do well and succeed, or whatever that word means to different people. I think that's something that was just, I was born to sell stuff.
Yeah.
That's the Griff Christmas tree, just so you wanted to see.
At the Griff home, or
at the Griff home, I believe. Yes.
Yes, that's.
Wow.
I mean, that's a passion.
That's a large Christmas
tree. Is it real?
Is it real, Molly? Molly, is it real?
How dare you?
No,
How
I
dare
have a fake
I
tree.
mean, it's phenomenal, and it's gonna go up on the on this.
You know where he got
The-
that? He got that at Petiti's.
Fine selection.
By the way, just as an aside, so Jeff and I had lunch maybe a year ago, and
You know what? I forgot about this. And
Yeah.
I wish I didn't, because I wouldn't have let you off the hook. So
I
I'm
know-
glad you're bringing this
yeah,
up.
you know, so I said to Jeff, I go, oh man, you know, I live right behind your greenhouse, right? I drive past it all the time. It's right there on 306. It's like a mile south of 422, right? He goes, no, that's Petiti's.
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
I'm
man.
surprised he agreed to be a guest.
I know.
So that's when I ordered several drinks at lunch.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Made him pick up the bill. So
I don't blush easily,
Yes.
but it was all red face after that.
I was gonna say I live behind Lowe's greenhouse, so you can't live behind Lowe's greenhouse.
I told you, I'm not that smart.
Oh my goodness! Oh my
All right,
goodness.
so one is surround yourself with positive people, right? What's another one? Another nugget for the next generation of Lowe's greenhouse
well, for
owners.
me, it's always right from the get-go. I kind of knew. I always had that underdog sort of mentality. Is that I'm not going to have the biggest place. I'm not going to have the fanciest place. I'm not going to be the smartest guy, just like you, Alex. But there will never be anybody that will outwork me.
Yeah.
There will never be anybody that puts more effort forth. And I think that that above and beyond, and that was something that my parents and my grandparents, that whole farming environment kind of instilled in me.
Yeah.
And then with time, as I've grown and seen what other people, that has definitely served me well. So,
Were you a farmer?
oh yeah, that's what the greenhouse business is. It's farming.
Well, I mean, but did you grow up on a farm?
Not only did I grow up at the nursery, which is a farm, I also spent a lot of time at my grandfather's dairy farm as well. So yes.
So wait, is Lowe's greenhouse where it currently is on 306, just north of Washington, right? Do I have that correct?
There you go.
Is that the original,
Yes.
and that's where you grew up?
Yeah.
And that was
the
a farm.
house to the left behind, right?
Well, see, the thing is that just because we're growing things inside structures is no different than growing things outside in the ground. We're
Right.
still growing things.
Us city folk, Jeff.
And
right?
so we gotta coach you up here.
We think farms have to have cows and
No, I'm
livestock.
I'm a farmer. And that's that farmer's
No, you're
mentality.
right. You're absolutely right. You
So you can't go on vacation because the plants die. You have to take care of the plants.
Right.
You got to take care of that environment.
Did you ever have livestock on your farm?
No.
So, and was the crop always for sale at Lowe's, or was it like, like other farms where you go to the other
Right, sure.
markets and trades?
Well, and again, that's historically speaking, that's interesting in the fact that originally, what was sold through the doors of Lowe's greenhouse was much less than it is today. Carlton Lowe had flowers that he grew out in the field, cut flowers, that he would supply the downtown flower markets with. And really, one of the questions comes up: why are there so many greenhouses in this area? Well, the connection is the Rockefellers and the Cleveland of old, and that class of folks, and their desire for fresh flowers, and how many flowers were utilized. And a lot of these greenhouses, if you think about, historically speaking, you think about the dates, that they were growing flowers to serve that public, because it couldn't be shipped at that point in time from places far and wide.
So Carlton Lowe was shipping
He was
to the Rockefellers.
well, he was delivering flowers
Delivering.
downtown,
Yeah.
and as a child, we grew a lot of cut flowers, and I would get in the van with my grandfather, and we delivered to the wholesale houses down in Cleveland and other greenhouses and nurseries all over town. So,
How many locations are there today?
how many locations?
Is it the one greenhouse?
Just for me, yeah, Lowe's, yeah, we're just
Okay.
Oh, that's plenty. I didn't know
Right, well, that's what I thought. That's what I
Yes,
thought.
yes, yeah.
I don't know why I thought you said something earlier about
The
other.
houses or house.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
I
a title
hallucinated.
thing. So one thing though that I learn on a daily basis about Jeff is not through Jeff, is through other people, because he is a constant giver and supporter of, I know I was at the Chagrin Falls Park one day, and they said that things get dropped off there all the time, and it's from Lowe's. He drops off plants constantly. I was at Augie's Pizza one night, and Jeff's name came up, and oh yeah, Jeff always takes care of our, plants, and constantly giving to the Bainbridge Food Bank. He's always doing a drive at Lowe's where you can drop off food. If you get a Christmas tree, and he'll bring it to your house and put it up if you donate canned goods.
Really? Well, you personally, or
I do that personally for close friends.
Interesting.
But I couldn't keep up. We do way too many for me to deliver all. That's the way it started off. It started off with, I'll just do this. Well, we have way too many. We have crews going out now to keep up with that demand.
That's awesome, though.
And that's my amazing part.
Yeah.
I could take away all the successes, although they do allow you then to do all that you do.
Yes.
But what makes Jeff amazing to me is all the things that he's constantly doing for other people, and it's not for paper, for shout outs or anything. It's behind the scenes.
Well,
stuff that he gives.
As I've gone through many different types of understanding of how my business works and what makes it tick, there was a point in time when I came to realize that that is something that I can do that can be my sustainable advantage. That can be the thing that makes my business unique amongst a crowded marketplace, but more importantly, it's something that feeds. It feeds something inside me that needs to be fed. It feeds something inside of my people. It's another one of those things that makes working at Lowe's Greenhouse a fringe benefit, because you're part of something much bigger than just selling stuff. And what I've found over time is that the more you give, the more you get. And it's just something that really feel very positive.
Is that something that you developed from like family? Was that like a family tradition? Or
no,
was that...
really what it was is I became more involved in the community as I became involved in the chamber, as I became involved in the Chagrin Valley Rotary, which is very important to me. I began to see that successful people were people that gave the most.
Yeah.
The most successful people I knew were the ones that gave the most.
I find that to be true across the board, consistently. And the people that are successful but aren't as fulfilled as the ones that do, right? I think that there's definitely something about giving and contributing, whether it's your time or your money or your people, your resources, that when you do it without the expectation of any reward, it makes everything else you do just feel so much better.
I think it's a part of. I think it's part of being a human being.
Yeah.
I think you have to have your hands in the dirt from time to time, and you have to do for others. And some folks don't buy into that. Some people don't believe in it. But I think those folks maybe just haven't given it a chance.
Well, and that's a great. Jeff's favorite quote: "Bloom where you're planted."
Mm-hmm.
What a great quote, which describes exactly what we're talking about, right? Give back. I went to Jeff invited me last year when we were doing the essay contest to the Rotary Club,
Yes.
and not at all the staid, boring, just lame group of folks that I thought it was going to be.
There's a lot of things that you can call our Rotary Club, but that is not.
Oh,
none
man.
of those are in the description.
I have been invited, but yet to attend, only because
It's so early in the morning.
so early in the morning.
But let me tell you something, Molly. They party at the Rotary Club.
7:30.
Yeah. It is debauchery over there. I mean, it's in a classy way, right?
So every Tuesday morning,
Yeah.
at the Kenston Community Room at the old Gardner School, just get in contact with me. I'd be happy to invite anybody out there in podcast land to be my guest. 7 o'clock in the morning.
Does it have to be at 7 in the morning, Jeff?
there are some clubs that do lunch meetings. There's some clubs that do dinner meetings, but we are 7 o'clock in the morning. We are breakfast people.
I feel like you're pricing yourself out of a lot of clientele there.
You know what though? It's a matter of efficiency because I don't have to miss any work.
That is true.
So
and it's also a matter of commitment because you gotta really want it, right?
Man.
Like I had a client that was considering drug testing for his employees, right? And I said, I told him, I go, you're a tech company, right? Most of your employees play Halo. Right, and get high, right?
Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, so you can start drug testing, but I got a feeling you're going to lose half of your employees.
Can we talk about Jeff liking Ozzy Osbourne, which I find to be quite, that wouldn't be my band I would choose for you.
Well, see, you got to go back to, the earlier on in the notes, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
The crazy
Maybe
train.
there's like some wild in there too. So
I would love to hear a wild, yes.
Oh,
yes.
well, see, the Ozzy Osbourne concert, when a big hand came out of the stage, and this was after the biting the heads off bats thing.
Okay.
So and I can't tell for all those PETA fans out there, but the word was that was a German Shepherd he blew up on that stage. But I couldn't say for sure. But it was But that was back in the day. So but that is definitely in the rearview mirror.
Well, I know that my brother wanted to go to the Ozzy concert when he was younger, and I remember that being one of the biggest fights in our house. He wanted to go to Ozzy. And he literally punched the wall. Mom wouldn't let him go because I believe it was right after he bit the head off of something. And he punched a hole in the wall. We bought the house from my parents in Wycliffe, and that hole was still, like, we rented it for years and years and years. And then John and I bought the house from my parents, and that hole was still...
that fight was probably a fight worth fighting. So
yeah.
Kudos to them.
Knowing my brother, my mom probably said no. He probably snuck out, went to the concert, and crawled back in the window. And my mother never knew the difference.
You were probably rolling on the floor together.
Probably Ozzy Osbourne. Wow.
The Ozzy hole in your house.
Wow.
All right, Jeff.
Now's the time.
We totally need a jingle for this part of the podcast.
I know.
All right.
Nellie's going to figure it out.
Kids listening at home, if you want to actually contribute to the production of this podcast, you can send us the jingle that should go right here.
Now.
Right here. All right.
Before our speed round of questions.
Jeff Griff, biggest success.
There's no two ways about it. My biggest success is my two children.
Okay.
There's no two ways about it. So,
how old are they?
Darby is 21, and Maddie is 19.
Have you ever had to withhold dinner from them because they didn't show up for work?
You know what? There's the big difference between my children and myself is they never needed that motivation.
See, it was a trick question.
They had that motivation somehow built in.
Because your dad instilled it in you.
It could very well be. It could be.
And then just came right through the bloodline.
We can say that it was the other success that has to be right is being married to my wife and convincing her somehow that she should be with me and making it seem like it was her idea. So that was
brilliant.
That was
brilliant
because obviously the all those work together.
You said Darby's 25.
22.
22, and the boy is
both
Maddie
girls.
is 20.
Oh, both girls.
20 and 22.
20 and 22.
Mm-hmm.
They married?
They are not.
Gentlemen, stay away from Jeff Griff's daughters.
Yes.
Oh, they already
Beautiful,
have their gentlemen, which I work really hard not to like, but I can't because they're such good guys. So.
See, that's how you know you've done a good job as a dad, right? Is when your daughters date somebody that you don't want to murder.
And in the first boy that was being brought home, I did the typical dad thing, and I'm harassing my daughter and saying, "Well, should I show her my gun collection?" And and she looked right at me, so serious. "Dad, do you really think that I would go out with a jerk?"
Oh.
And waited for my answer. And waited. It's like, no, you're right. It's a very good judge of character.
Do you attribute your? Is there a good parenting lesson that you would like to impart to those of us that have a 3-year-old daughter at home?
With that lesson, I would never ever think that I have anything figured out parenting wise that I should be able to give anybody a lesson.
Well, that's obvious. That's not true.
Everybody has to find their own way. We kind of gave our kids pretty long leashes, so they were able to make their own mistakes, find their own way. Of course, you have to monitor that, but.
Fellow that used to work here used to say to me, Alex, your cute little 3-year-old girl sitting at home that is just the apple of your eye today. When she turns 14, she's going to start to operate on only 2 moods, bored and disgusted.
Yeah, I heard all those stories.
Not true in
never
your case.
Never came true.
Good for you.
Never came true. So,
I got to get one of those really long leashes.
What I will tell you, though, is that everything you notice about them, everything that makes them unique or different from one another or the other kids, never goes away. It never goes away. All those control issues or how relaxed they are or how strong they are continues throughout their entire lives. And it's just interesting to see that manifest itself in different ways, from when they were a little baby and didn't want to quiet down when they were riding on the plane until there's an election. And we'll just leave it at that.
That's what Alan.
Their first election they get to vote in, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, without getting into party politics, I will only ask you this. Was there a lot of support when Lowe's Greenhouse provided the flowers and trees for the Republican National Convention this year?
Absolutely, because I think that everybody understands that is just good for the community,
Yes.
good for Cleveland, good for Chagrin Falls, good for Lowe's
Lowe's.
Greenhouse,
Yeah.
and it was just something for us all to be proud of.
Yes,
Along with
for
our
sure.
friends over at Hungry Bee, who
Yes.
did amazing work with the.
She's on our list. She's a podcast guest.
But that's a big deal. I mean, you provided all of the flowers and trees for the RNC.
And if that was the case, it would have been an even bigger deal, but that was not the case.
Oh, it was just
we
some of the
provided
flowers and
some
trees.
of the flowers.
Ah.
So there was a lot of other folks who were also providing flowers. We
Gotcha.
did our small part.
All right. Well,
And
still
did you see any
Our comings and
benefit
goings
from
were with odd hours in the middle of the night. So we were not rubbing elbows with anybody that would be selfie worthy.
Right. Gotcha.
Well, if you're Molly,
everybody's
is
selfie worthy. Absolutely.
All right, Jeff Griff. Biggest failure.
Boy, when I think of failure, I think that's kind of using 20/20 vision in a rearview mirror, which is really
Right.
unfair. Because I didn't go to college, and boy, I could have avoided a lot of headaches and a lot of trials and tribulations, but it's just that wasn't meant to be. And of course, we go back to the good and bad and the ugly, and there was a lot of that ugly, all of which were failures. I think there was a point in time as I was finding my way and learning my way that I don't think that I really helped develop my folks at work to the point that I should have, and I really didn't. I do a good job of identifying good people and nurturing people at work and bringing them along. So I don't know if that was necessarily a failure. I think that was a part of growing pains.
Yeah.
But I would say if I had to put a point on it, to say it's learning how to run a business.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was done through trial and error. So there was a whole collection of very small failures that made up that process.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't consider anything to be a failure so long as you get back in there right
It's
afterwards.
a
and
learning.
learn
It's
from it.
something to learn from. So
Yeah. Do you have? So what did you learn from that? You're thinking of a particular time period. I can tell that you were just describing. Did you? So what did you learn from that? Did you put something in place?
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with the situation that I found myself in. Because when we took over the business, we kind of as you here in Chagrin, we can understand. Well, I lived in the bubble. I lived in the bubble of Lowe's greenhouse. My parents didn't spend a lot of time. I did not spend a lot of time outside the bubble of what we were doing. So,
by the way, that's a bubble within a bubble.
There you go. That is a double bubble.
Right.
And double bubble was with
That'd be
trouble.
a great gum. Great gum name there.
It's a great name. And it wasn't until when my wife and I took over the business, and then we realized that we need to get some help. And my wife is very smart. She's the one with the MBA, and she's the brains and the beauty of the operation. But one of the things we realized is that we need to get some help and learn from others. So we got some consultants. We started to reach out in the community of garden center owners and within that industry. And then it wasn't until then we realized what we got ourselves into. And the business that we had purchased and took over, that was in really, really sad state of financial affairs. And I think it was the pressure of being in that situation. So, and having to claw our way out of that.
So
pit of despair, as it was for a lot of time during that part of my life.
Did you? Well, let me ask you this: is there now? Because one thing I struggle with a lot here as we grow is processes, right? And what I know intuitively is that there's a sweet spot, right? You need enough processes so you don't have to micromanage people, but you can't have so many processes that people feel micromanaged, right? And so there's this sweet spot there for just the right number of, and the right amount of processes, right? One thing that I've done is I call it the Gertzberg Law Firm Wheel of Awesomeness, right? And it's like a pie chart, right, with 6 pieces of pie, and one is like, process and or operations, and one is finance, and one is marketing, and hiring, retaining, right? And then you just put 5 to 10 processes into each pie, right? And those are like the most important ones. Problem I have is not just creating them and then leaving them on the shelf, right? But you got to constantly train, and then there's another sweet spot there, right, where you don't want to be over training and all up in their business all the time, So I would be curious, 67 years in the business, right? Well, I guess first, do you see that same kind of sweet spot issue, right? And then how do you, what are the processes?
Well, there's all sorts of sweet spot issues.
Yeah.
It's working on the business instead of working in the business,
right.
Trying to be a CEO, even though what you really like to do is go out and dig holes and play in the dirt all day
right.
long. You don't like to sit in front of the computer. So there's that sweet spot. There's the sweet spot of, how much process for sure, how much we restrain people and how much we give people freedom to make
right.
their own decisions, empower people to make decisions. And I know where my tendencies are, so I'm always working against those tendencies. And I think that's that realization of who you are and where you are and how you deal with, where you're strong and where you're weak.
Right.
And then surrounding your people with the people to kind of offset what you need. So there's all sorts of sweet spots that you're working on in a daily basis that, and it's hard to keep track of all of them and to monitor those. But it's all about having those people surround you to kind of keep bringing you in, and having that reinforcement to keep you on track.
Do you have, and if there's a secret sauce that none of the other greenhouses are allowed to know, feel free to exercise your veto to this question right here. But what is the process for your processes over there, right? Like, does Jeff Griff does everybody know what they're supposed to be doing because of like an operations manual that Jeff Griff has created?
Well, I guess the confusing part to that is the fact that we kind of have separate businesses under one roof. So we have the landscape business, we have the florist business, we have the greenhouse growing business, we have the garden center business, we have the gift business. And each one of the answer to those different businesses are going to be different.
Is there someone in charge of each business?
There's a person in charge.
And do they write their own policies? for each business?
Though
or you?
each one of those departments develops the policy as they go along, and some of those I have a heavier hand in than others, depending
Okay.
on the experience of that individual that's
Got it.
there.
And you're a very goal-oriented business where, you know, he knows what he did last year. He knows what the goal is. I know you're always
And we
talking to your
budget
staff
every
about
one
that.
every one of those businesses has their own P&L, and they all have goals for everywhere down the line. And that's that's where I go back to my wife Mary Lynn and her intelligence and her ability to bring those numbers to bear. She's the one that keeps track of the money. I could never do what she does. And again, that's back with our peer group. Within our peer group, she's, everybody's amazed at Mary Lynn's skills, and they should be, because, we would never be where we are today without her being able to give us that information, to gather that information, to organize it in a way that helps us make the decisions of where we need more of those systems and more of those controls, and when somebody is performing, and if things aren't performing, where the discrepancy is.
You proud of the gift shop?
The Wild Thistle,
The
absolutely.
Wild Thistle.
Yeah,
I love that
absolutely.
name.
Wild Thistle.
The Wild Thistle.
Which was
As
from
if
one of
they're
our.
not wild
That was
enough.
also from one of our former employees. I can't take credit for that. Was one of our former
the
employees
name?
that came up with that name. As we kind of came up with this concept, she was the one that came up with the name.
I mean,
so.
because a thistle is wild enough. You don't even need to say the wild
Extra
part.
wild thistle.
Yeah, because it's prickly
Right.
and then throw a wild on top of it.
Genius.
Telling you.
Wild and prickly. It makes it
Wow.
sound like everybody's going to want to dash out to come shop. Thank you, Molly.
Head
I'm so
on-
glad
head
that
to
when I
the
was here
wild
today.
and prickly gift shop, folks. No, you do want to head out there, and you want to bring your husband's credit card or your unlimited
And leave
credit
him
card
at home, because
and
he
leave
just
him at
ruins all
home.
the fun.
Right.
Oh, because there is so much fun that could be had there.
All right, well, so let's button this up, because I have OCD and I pretend like I take depositions all day. So the biggest failure was related to this period of time where there were, it sounded like it was employee issues.
Well, it could, if I said that my biggest failure was buying a business or purchasing a business that was in such a disarray financially that it put me in a bad spot, well, that would make it sound like that well, I can't say that's a failure, because that was one of
Right.
the best things I've ever done, but yet it put me in a spot that was very, very difficult. So would I say that's a failure? Well, failure is a tough word, but it was definitely a trial.
Yeah.
It was definitely something that I didn't know that I was doing when I did it, and that I had to deal with afterwards. So
Okay.
I guess that from that standpoint, that's where, when you say what's your greatest failure, well, that's kind of defines what
Right.
Got me
Right.
here today.
Right. Okay, we have two more questions for you, Jeff Griff. Molly, do you want to ask your favorite question first this time?
Sure.
Usually I just jump right in and ask mine first, but why don't you go 1st
I'll
this
ask
time?
mine. Okay. Jeff Griff, can you share with me or us, the listeners, I was going to say the viewers,
The
but
peanut gallery.
the two listeners that are listening, a woman that was there an influential woman figure in your life? Your mother, a grandmother?
Well, it would have to be my mother, for sure. I mean, that's.
And why?
Well, first of all, she's your mother, and there's something just about moms. They get blamed for everything, right? The good and the bad. And my mom she is really cool. There's no two ways about it. She gets younger every year. She's her humor and her laugh is contagious. She has an artist's mind, so she's definitely, and that's something that I always, if you can give yourself a title, or if you can give yourself that would be the thing that I always want to be an artist, no matter what. Alex, you said, when you look at things, you always say, "Oh, I can do better than that." I can look at podcasts,
Right.
you say, and you told me today, and
Yeah.
you said, "I know I could do a better podcast." Well, when it comes to things that are having to do with art, that's my thing. I can look at somebody doing a chainsaw sculpture, and I can do that. See somebody painting a picture, I can do that. Somebody taking photography, I can do that. And that's something that I got from my mother. There's no two ways about it, because she's the artist in my life, and she's also really, really smart. So
Do you
she's got that balance.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Do you do all those things you just said? The
Yeah,
sculpting
I love photography. I decided that I could sculpt something, and I started off with a 9-foot tall wooden Indian.
Is that
Because
right?
that's the way I roll.
Right.
You know, I have a 20-foot Christmas tree in my house.
Yes,
Come on,
yes.
I don't do anything halfway.
What? How did you? In order to learn sculpting,
You haven't seen my work to know that I really.
are we talking about YouTube videos? Or did you talk to somebody who told you how they did it?
You know, you watch a couple things. You know, everybody's watched the Bob Ross painting.
For sure.
And
Oh, yeah.
we all know that we can paint because Bob Ross did. And yeah, I saw people sculpt, and I figured I could do that. So, and I was pretty handy with a chainsaw. I've cut a lot of firewood in my day, so I figured, well, how different is it to make firewood than it is to make a wooden Indian? Come on.
And where is this wooden Indian?
It's on my front porch.
Okay. Can we take a picture and text it to me so we can put it up on our Facebook page, please?
we can do that.
Can we also?
Because I think the listeners are dying to see it.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Well, there you go. We
Yes.
can do that.
Speaking of.
Can we Photoshop Molly's face onto the?
Can I just come to your house and selfie with
It should be my mom's face should be out
Yes.
there because it's all.
Yes.
It's either her fault or she gets credit for that. So.
Well, speaking of that, I've mentioned the Facebook page several times. The Best Podcast
Ever.
Like us on Facebook, and you'll be
Ever.
able to see pictures from behind the scenes, and we'll get Jeff's
Yes.
Christmas tree up there and a picture of this amazing Indian that he speaks of. But I have that same mind. I know I mentioned it at the last podcast. I come from that same cut where I could totally do that, and I'll just go and do it.
Yeah, I've got a theory about that. Actually, I think that in the tens of thousands of years of mutations that have created the humans walking around the planet today, right? What has propelled us forward has been people that have that trait. People who say, "I can do better than that." Right?
The question is, can you culture that? Can you develop that, or is that just something that you're born with?
It's a great question, Jeff. I think that you can make it robotic. And the reason I say that is that I just got done watching this documentary called Transcendent Man. Have you seen it? About Ray Kurzweil? Oh my God. It will blow your mind. Go home tonight and order it. Ray Kurzweil is the guy who is most known for being the most accurate predictor of technological trends, right? So predicted like the internet and to like almost to the year, right? Predicted cell phones and smartphones and everything, right? Figured out basically that in the 50s when the IBM mainframe computer, the very first one, took up 3 floors of a building at MIT and had to be flown in on its own plane, right? Could only do basic math. And then slowly over time, this giant machine kept getting smaller and smaller, but more powerful over time, to the point where today, the power in your smartphone is like 20 million times smarter than that first computer, right? And obviously so much smaller. So he figured out that at the way that technological trends go, there's going to be this point called singularity, which I think he predicted would be around 2050, right? Which will be the point in time when technological advances occur so rapidly, like in the blink, like so fast. You're not waiting years or decades, but just like months or weeks or days for the next big technological thing to happen, that at that point in time, artificial intelligence will be indistinguishable from human intelligence, right? So the 3 of us will be sitting in the room, and one of us will be a robot, and one of us will not be able to tell which of the other 2 is the human and the robot, right? Number 1. And number 2, that will be the point in time when robots and technology gets so small and so compressed that it will be the size of a blood cell, and it will be injected, right? This is the guy who is the most accurate predictor
And
This
he's
is
going to
the
be on next week's podcast.
Yeah.
Oh man, I would love it. This is the Nostradamus of technology.
Kurt Cobain also said that Trump was going to be the president. So
Kurt Cobain did
Yeah.
before he died.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Well, if Kurt Cobain said it.
So let's watch who we.
All I'm
We're
saying
locked
is,
in
well,
here.
first of all, Kurt Cobain was a genius. So you know what? If I would have known that back then, I would have voted for Trump. I'm just kidding. No, my
You heard it here,
My
folks.
point is, how did we get on this? How did we start talking about robots and
I
simulations?
don't even
that attention
know.
deficit. Yeah, right.
Yeah, we don't even know. You took.
Oh
a right
yeah.
turn.
This is why. This is why. Because I believe that
Oh.
the mutation, the muscle, right? The thing in our DNA that gets us to that point, right, is that thing that tells some of us I can do it better, and not only just I can do it better, but I'm going to give it a shot. Which, by the way, is the genesis of this podcast.
Right.
Just saying, right? It is the best
All
podcast
right, so let's
ever.
finish it off.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple things I want to shout out. This weekend.
Well,
at
hold on a
Lowe's.
second. I haven't asked Jeff my question.
Yeah, but you took it up with your documentary BS.
All right. I don't want to interrupt you. Do you want me to ask my question?
Yes,
later?
yes.
I'll ask it now. Jeff,
Yes.
limiting beliefs. Do you have them? And if so, what do you do about it?
I think we established that with the Indian carving, didn't we?
But everybody,
That was a
I have
mom question.
limiting beliefs. I have doubts.
Yeah?
Self-doubt, doubt of so many things.
Really?
But I have failed at so many things, so many different times that you just keep going. You just keep going.
Mm.
So I think, I think that's just all. Again, that's
It's more of a hurdle than it's nothing that stops you.
No, it's nothing that even slows you down. If nothing else, it just ramps me up to come up with a better mousetrap. Just another way of doing things.
Can you share what an example of a limiting belief that Jeff Griff has is?
Well, I mean, from work, Molly mentioned we're always doing events. We're always doing something. So, I sit down with my folks and we come up with this great idea. We think this is going to be the most wonderful thing, and we dive into it and we put all of our energy into it and we get really excited about the outcome, and then nobody shows up. It's just, and it's tough because, the way I would do it is I want to engage the others. So I bring other people in. I get collaboration. I'll get another community member involved, and then when you put it together, it just doesn't work. But
So is one of your limiting beliefs that you get worried that it's not going to work out, it's going to fizzle?
That what I'm doing is I'm losing relevance.
Ah, interesting.
I'm losing relevance.
And do you, when you say I just go forward anyway, do you just not listen to that voice that says they might not show?
You want to say, doesn't everybody want to say you don't listen to that voice? But nobody that's honest with themselves, that are, when they're sitting at home at the end of the day, can honestly say they don't listen to that voice.
Alex is going to tell you his quote about the voices
the
in
roommate?
your head.
Yeah, it's this great book. It's called 10% Happier by Dan Harris. It's amazing. It's an amazing book. And actually, I think Eckhart Tolle said it originally, and he borrowed it. He said, if the voice in your head were your roommate, you would murder it, right? Because it's always chattering. It's always judgmental. It's always negative. It's always telling you what you can't do before it tells you what you can do. And you can't shut it up, right? But and this is why I ask this question, actually. It's important to me because I think that everyone has limiting beliefs, and that it's a struggle to come up with a coping mechanism, right, that allows you to either ignore it or plow through it or give it the weight that it deserves or whatever. Because, I mean, sometimes those limiting beliefs should be listened to, right? Because they keep you grounded to some extent. But that's another one of those sweet spots, right?
Well, you mentioned coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And I can tell you for sure is that whenever I feel like, that somebody's catching up to me, that I'm not doing well enough, I'm not making the right decisions, whatever it is, I will tell you the thing that brings me back, and that's doing for others.
Mm.
Comes back to that thing.
Yeah.
You know, you do for others, because if I don't have to look, and I don't know many people that have to look very far to find a more difficult situation that they're in at any time.
Yeah.
And the more difficult of a situation that you think you're in, just take a look around and realize that it's not all that bad. And if you reach out and do for others, I think that just brings you right back to the place where you can start and build on the things you need to build on.
Well, and along those same lines, one way that I've dealt with limiting beliefs is by remembering to ask myself, why are you really doing this, right? And in most cases, if you ask that question enough times, right? Yeah, but why? Yes, but why are you doing that? Yeah, but why? It usually comes back to, I have a family, there's people that depend on me, there's people that I want to help. It's usually not, well, if your purposes are sound and righteous, I guess, but in most cases, it's usually for others.
External.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I agree.
All right, Molly, I apologize. I
No,
interrupted
but now
you with my
now that he
interruption.
said one of his worries is about is he doing too much, and now I'm going to tell all the things he's doing. So this weekend, December 3rd and 4th, okay, not only is the shop in top condition for holiday season, for your shopping
Except for the things that you highlighted that people bought.
that are bought, sold out. Hey, that's why you have to, listen and run. I did mention that there were only a few in the video. So we have Donuts with Darth Vader at Lowe's Greenhouse this weekend on Saturday the 3rd. Star Wars. Oh, are you telling us that he's the Star Wars villain?
Well, no, people can dress up as Star Wars. Their favorite
Encouraged.
Star Wars.
Oh my goodness.
Although
Costumes.
we're really shooting for kids here,
Yes.
so we're not. Yeah, so
Children.
anyway.
Yeah.
My
so
kids are going to lose their
costumes
minds
are
this weekend
encouraged.
coming to
It's
that.
$5. I'm assuming to meet and greet with Darth Vader.
And that's just a donation to
And
Bainbridge Area
donation to the
Food Bank.
Bainbridge Food Bank, of course.
It's
of course.
fantastic.
Then December 4th, as if Darth Vader's not enough, we have the Snow Queen,
Oh my goodness.
which is what you call it when you can't say
Elsa.
Elsa.
I'll say it for you
Thank
because
you.
I did not put it all together in a sentence. It was a
The
mutual
Snow
sentence.
Queen will be there. Costumes, again, I'm assuming Disney princesses or
And all the princesses are.
all the
And
princesses.
Darth might even come on Sunday as well. So
I mean,
it's a pretty good chance.
come on.
I would like to see a lightsaber battle between the Snow Queen and Darth Vader. I'm just
Well,
saying.
maybe that could be arranged. I
I
do
think that
happen
would
to
be-
know the Snow Queen
I mean,
very
you really,
well.
you want to
so.
go really outside the box here, Jeff, right? Do that.
That could get me in trouble. I
Well-
might be back in your office on Monday morning if we were to do that.
So, but fun, free, I mean, not free, there's a donation involved, but, that's kind of how it is every weekend. Take the kids, do your shopping, the little one gets to see Darth Vader or Snow Queen. I know your daughter would be all over that.
And make sure you don't go in your backyard. You have to go down the road. a little
Right.
bit. You go to the
Yes.
right, go
You
to
have
the
to
right
get to
place.
your
I'm
car.
glad,
Right place.
I'm glad we had this podcast.
Yes, Lowe's Greenhouse. What's
Yeah.
the address?
16540 Chillicothe Road in beautiful Bainbridge,
Bainbridge,
Ohio.
Ohio. And what is the website for anyone that wants to visit
www.lowesgreenhouse.com.
lowesgreenhouse.com? And you are open Monday through Sunday.
Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6, and Sunday, 10 to 5.
Okay. And if we buy a Christmas tree from you, somebody at Lowe's
Yes.
is going to take it to my
we will,
house
we will
and
bring
put
it.
up.
You bring your food donation. We will bring the tree to you and set it up in your house.
And we're not talking decorations here, folks. You're on your own.
Oh,
for
we do that too, but that's
That's a
not,
cost.
that's
That's a little bit more than a can of squash.
and we do wear shoes. Yes.
What, do they bring Christmas presents to put under the tree?
Yes, the ones that you buy at Lowe's, they will
Oh,
maybe wrap
love
them
this
and
part.
bring them with the
they
tree
put a
and put
little
them
gift
underneath.
certificate under there to shop at Lowe's.
Yes.
Or like, you know what you should do? You should put a gift card under the tree for like $20 off their next purchase of $500 or more.
See, now that's just going to have them flooding in.
Brilliant.
See, I knew I
Brilliant.
came to this podcast
Right?
for a reason.
Well, Jeff is hopefully going to start. I mean, he does it with me. I have a free subscription, but the green text, or what did we call it? We had a cool name for it. Where I'll text Jeff my question about any plant I have or a picture and then he answers, and I said that should be like a monthly subscription.
Yeah.
So that's
that-
why then people at parties don't have to ask me there about their plants and their landscape. They could do it via text.
Right, well,
efficient.
you'd have to say,
It's
I'm sorry, I
efficient.
can't answer that. You have to subscribe to the Dr. Green
Dr. Pete
Thumb.
Moss.
Dr. Pete Moss.
Is that a real thing?
It's going to be now
It
that we
is
just said
now.
it.
It is now. It's out
Yes.
there.
That's outstanding.
$10 a month subscription,
That's
and he
brilliant.
will answer any question you have about.
Attorneys are not the only ones that can get paid to talk on the
Yeah.
phone.
I love
Pete
it.
Moss. Well, thank you, Jeff Griff. For
Indeed,
Thank
Jeff.
you
being
both
here
for inviting me
today.
to the most amazing podcast ever.
Also
Right,
the
that is right.
best podcast.
The best,
ever.
the best podcast.
See, I got you confused with Petites, and you
I-
got us
I-
confused
I'm
with that
just-
other podcast.
I'm all over the place. I'm all over the place.
You got me back there.
Such a pleasure.
Ah,
Thank you.
all
thank
right,
you.
kids. Thank you for tuning in. Molly, this was the best podcast ever, I think. What do you think?
Ever.
Ever?
Ever.
All right.